You're watching Access Asia. I'm Molly Hall. Here's what's coming up in today's show. What drives Bhutan's quality of life? We look at the success and shortcomings of the Himalayan kingdom's Gross National Happiness Index. And from simple masks to complex technology, residents in China look for ways to tackle the high levels of air pollution. Plus, despite a declining birth rate, Japan is suffering from a shortage of daycare centers, and it's taking its toll on working mothers. But first, we start in Bhutan. The small Himalayan kingdom has a unique system that measures development through spiritual and emotional growth instead of material production. It's known as the Gross National Happiness Index, and for over 40 years, it's how quality of life is measured in the country. Well, that's given Bhutan the reputation as an oasis of tranquility, but there are some concerns it could soon turn into a mirage.
When the young king married a commoner in 2011, there was a sense of euphoria in this tiny Himalayan country.
By looking to them, it only gives us very happiness to, or it surely lead to our gross happiness.
Introduced by the king's father in 1972, Gross National Happiness, or GNH, is the guiding philosophy of Bhutan's development, and is used to measure how the country is faring instead of the more widely used growth indicator GDP.
The GDP growth model seems to be failing all around us. All of these suggest to us that we need an alternative model. That we must tread the GNH path is non-negotiable for us, because this is a choice as a Bhutanese society we have made.
In 2015, over 91% of people said they were somewhat happy, with 43% being extensively or deeply so. After 4 decades of quantifying happiness, the authorities here say they're getting closer to achieving the stated goal of making everybody very happy. Despite these figures, Bhutan is trailing behind in raising the standard of living for its people. It relies heavily on foreign aid, with 12% of the population living under poverty line. In a country where 60% of the population is under 25, youth unemployment is alarmingly high. DORJI graduated from university with a degree in computer science 4 years ago, but he's been unable to find a job and has been working on his parents' farm ever since.
Very less job, and every year more than 3,000-4,000 of graduates are coming, ma'am, getting graduated. So every year it's getting difficult to get a job.
Bhutan's national language has no word for depression. In this land of happiness, the government has been reluctant to acknowledge the growing number of mental illness cases. Dr. CHENCHO DORJI, Bhutan's first psychiatrist, is worried the trend may worsen in the coming years.
So we are going to, I think, have more issues with stress and anxiety and also maybe depression. For example, the number 1 cause of death in the hospital now is alcohol.
The tiny nation has big ambitions, cultural preservation being among the top. By 2020, Bhutan's agriculture will be 100% organic. It is also one of the few carbon-negative countries in the world. Determined to make GNH a success, authorities have started teaching it as a subject in primary schools. The aim is to ensure the philosophy is understood and accepted by future generations.
Next, in neighboring China, a different kind of index is getting attention. It's the Air Quality Index, and China relies heavily on coal for energy. As a result, smog is a constant threat in many cities. That's now left residents gasping for solutions.
In many of China's major cities, sights like this are becoming a regular occurrence. In fact, the smog alert's what most people check in the morning rather than the weather, with the nation seeing its first ever red alerts over particulate levels in the air in recent months. Authorities have suggested using masks, but that's little comfort for those who spend much of their time working outside, like street vendors and cleaners and police. There are many products, though their efficiency depends on what you buy.
On a day like today, this one should suffice, since there's a filter for fine particles.
Others are simply disposable. Still, sales are expected to reach 2.8 billion this year alone.
The masks are reassuring.
Young people want to protect themselves, but I think it's too late.
We had to stay inside during school break.
All this pollution is so worrying. But what can you do?
Even staying inside won't help. Fine particulates suspended in the air can get everywhere. A simple look inside a €1,000 air purifier shows just how clogged filters can become, especially when compared with a new one. That's worrying, given that all Beijing's public buildings, including schools and hospitals, have been fitted with such machines. One NGO even created a video showing the only survivors of the smog with huge nostril hairs that could filter out the pollutants. The government's not been inactive. With coal still China's #1 fuel, it's looking to technology to curb emissions drastically. One power station burns coal powder under high pressure to leave impurities behind as slag rather than airborne particles.
The coal is only an energy resource. The key issue, so how to deal with it, consume less coal to produce more production and reduce the emission, even almost zero.
High technology like this seems an obvious solution to China's coal concerns. However, there's a long way to go. This plant produces just 8% of Shanghai's total energy.
Next, under Taliban rule, Afghanistan's national sport was banned. The extremist group considered it immoral. Well, since the regime was ousted, the 8 centuries-old tradition of BUZKASHI is now played again. And horsemen can be seen cracking their whips as they battle for the headless body of a goat or calf.
It's brutal. It's intense. This is BUZKASHI, Afghanistan's national sport. Literally meaning pull the goat, the game dates back 800 years and features horsemen called chopandas fighting over a headless carcass, usually a goat or calf. The aim is to score a goal by dragging the body from one end of the field to the other and back, and it's not for the faint-hearted.
A good chopandas should be strong. He should have good technique. He should be well trained and have a good physique. And like other sportsmen, has to have a special diet while training.
For riders like Hassan Palawan, BUZKASHI is both a passion and a way to make money. Victorious players go home with prizes or cash, sometimes as much as several $1,000s for high-profile games. But BUZKASHI has known dark times. It was banned by the Taliban when they were in power from 1996 to 2001.
During the Taliban regime, we were in the mountains with our horses. We were fighting against the Taliban. You see these people? They're all mujahideen. But we have a peaceful environment now in Balkh province.
The game has always been a men-only affair, so much so that even all the horses are male. Afghanistan's biggest BUZKASHI tournament takes place here in Mazar-e-Sharif and marks the Persian New Year.
We are happiest when the horses are running fast. We are proud to have this culture.
When the horses come towards us, we have to protect ourselves so that we don't get injured. You can see the horses. They are so big that if a horse tramples you, it will definitely break your leg or something else.
The passion for BUZKASHI often runs in the blood. And many young men follow their fathers to compete in a sport that provides a welcome distraction from the violence in the rest of the country.
Now, Japan's birth rate is on the decline, so it may come as a surprise to hear that there is a shortage of child care centers. Well, the lack of services is becoming a political issue linked to gender equality. As critics say, there's not enough support for working mothers. Deputy Laurent has more.
These kids are among the first to be welcomed at this brand new daycare center in Tokyo. They are, in every sense, the lucky ones. Across Japan, 117,000 children are on a waiting list for a spot in daycare, and working mothers are getting more and more fed up.
It's wrong that when one's child gets into daycare, it's treated as if you won the lottery or won a prize. In order for women to work with peace of mind, it should be taken for granted that there's a daycare system where one's child can be cared for safely.
When Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe took office 6 years ago, he promised to bring more women into the workplace, including 30% of women holding leadership positions by 2020. While the working rate did increase, his plan has hit some obstacles, like a corporate culture that's still sexist towards women and the expectation that they must take care of the home as well. The biggest problem, though, is the staggering lack of daycare. Some children have been on waiting lists for 2 years. As a result, around 70% of women abandon the workforce after giving birth.
One of the reasons there are not more daycare centers is because we are facing a labor shortage of people with nursery qualifications. And low pay is one of the reasons that they are not looking for jobs in daycare.
Thus begins a vicious cycle. Not enough daycare workers leads to a lack of centers. This means that women are forced to leave their jobs or choose not to have children, which doesn't help Japan's already declining birth rate. The issue gained traction last month after an anonymous blog post went viral. The post, titled, "I couldn't get into daycare, die Japan," resonated with frustrated working mothers. After it was shared over 50,000 times, Shinzo Abe has promised remedies, including detailed measures written into law to reduce waiting lists and dedicating more money to creating new centers. Among other solutions, the government is also considering loosening up immigration rules to allow foreigners to work as family carers.
Well, now staying in Japan, we'll leave you with images of the country's spring cherry blossom viewing. The annual event is a colorful national pastime that attracts people from all over the world. Thanks for joining us here for this edition of Access Asia. I'll see you again next time.